Hi, my name is Dr. Arevakari, and I'm doing this video right now to expose the scam that has been fooling the world, calling itself a regulatory agency that has been set up to fight corruption and to fight terrorism. The reality is just the opposite. It is a toolbox employed by the rich and the wealthy nations against the weaker nations, against the developing nations, in order to control them, in order to force them to endorse their narrative, in order to force them to endorse their ideology. And it is nothing more than a manipulative strategy of foreign agencies, various foreign agencies of various foreign countries that belong to the top tier of this world. And the idea is to be able to have full access to plunder the resources of various countries and to have complete control of the fiscal policy, the economic policy of that country, to decide who can be jailed, who can be allowed to speak, what kind of narrative should flow in these countries. And most of the countries that are blacklisted are the ones who have defied Zionism, who have failed to conform the general narrative that has been churned out by the Zionist nations about the Israeli expansionism, and who basically do not acknowledge Israel as an independent state. So FATF has complete control of these organizations, who tend to defy, to challenge the status quo, and who tend to stand against Zionism. Pakistan is a classic case of the victimization of FATF, where FATF has been significantly harassing and bullying Pakistan to the point that they want complete control of the entire nation's economic policy, fiscal policy, counterterrorism policy. They want in and out of everything. FATF is a way to impair and to destroy the sovereignty of sovereign nations. Iran has been their victim, North Korea has been their victim, and now Pakistan is their victim. It was founded in 1989 by G7, and G7 decided that they want a regulatory agency that can regulate the countries who fail to bow before their bullish policies and who fail to conform to their standards, to fiscal standards, who want to defy the Federal Reserve Bank. But through this agency, if they gray list or blacklist a certain country, they can impose economic sanctions on that country under totally bogus allegations. You can see that since 1989, since it was founded, it has never ever blacklisted a rich and wealthy and powerful country. It has always targeted those countries that are poor, those countries that are struggling, those countries that are weak, and those countries whose policies are not in allegiance to the Zionist mainframe policies. And it is their way of twisting the arms of these countries in order to try to force them to conform the Zionist policies. Pakistan has been fairly, Pakistan has been extremely prejudiced against by FATF under corrupt lobbying of India. Indian lobbying is evident at FATF because one of the chairpersons of their sister organization is an Indian nationality. And India has been lobbying heavily against Pakistan bringing in US, bringing in the other G7 nations against Pakistan, trying to scare them that Pakistan is a safe haven for terrorism, when the reality is this, that it is India that has been orchestrating terrorism, completely sponsored by the state against its minorities. The Gujarat massacre was orchestrated with complete permission of the current Prime Minister of India, that is Modi. Everybody knows about it. There was a time when Modi was barred from entering the US, and now the same Modi was given an opportunity to address the US Congress and got a standing ovation. A guy who did so many human rights violations and who was once barred from entering the United States for his acts of terrorism against the minorities of India, gets a standing ovation at the US Congress because India under Modi has totally embraced Zionism. There was a time when the Indian establishment did not like Zionism. They were standing against Zionism actually. But then since the BJP government has come, India has been completely embracing Zionism. And so it is, it is the ATM bank of Zionist nations buying weapons upon weapons. It is basically the ATM bank of the military industrial complex of the Zionist nation. So it has that strong political leverage at platforms like FATF to push forwards a negative a negative lobbying against a certain country based upon lies, based upon deception. So India has been saying that Hafiz Saeed committed the Mumbai attack. To date, there is no tangible evidence to prove this fact, and Hafiz Saeed has always rejected this allegation. Pakistan has always rejected this allegation. Pakistan was never involved in this terrorist attack. On the other hand, India and its the head of its intelligence agency called Ajit Doval, he openly on a public platform confessed that he bids for a terrorist to do proxy war in Pakistan. And he has openly confessed, he's actually been very proud of it, that he bids for the terrorists out of Afghanistan and then uses them against Pakistan. India has been involved in in a major terrorist attack in Pakistan, the APS attack that happened in 2014 December, in which more than 150 children were killed in a school. And this was done by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP) that was funded, sponsored, and totally supported by RAW, which is the intelligence agency of India. And Ajit Doval has publicly confessed that it has been involved in terrorist activities that have happened on the soil of Pakistan. However, India has never been confronted by FATF. Why? Why is the FATF platform not neutral, that it claims that Pakistan is a safe haven of terrorism because US says so, because India says so, but it fails to listen to the open testimony and confession of an Indian spy, Kulbhushan Yadav, who openly confessed that he was told by the Indian intelligence agency, he was appointed to orchestrate terrorism, to orchestrate insurgency, to orchestrate blasts in Balochistan, in Karachi, in KPK areas of Pakistan. We have this Indian officer who was caught red-handed doing terrorism in Pakistan and who has openly confessed to the rest of the world what he was sent to Pakistan for, but FATF is not listening to this. This is a proof that FATF is not neutral in its policy making. It is not neutral in its decision making. It is a tool used by US. It is a tool used by the European nations. It is a tool used by Israel. It is a tool used by India that is in bed with Israel to basically orchestrate a war against countries that defy the Zionism. And Pakistan has yet to acknowledge Israel as an independent country. So Pakistan is considered a big threat because Pakistan is a Muslim country and Pakistan is considered a threat. So in order to control this threat, to neutralize this threat, to be able to de-energize and totally dismember this threat, regulatory agencies like FATF are illicitly employed in the name of so-called counter-corruption, in the name of so-called counter-terrorism, when the reality is this, that they're technically facilitating corruption by endorsing the corruption that has been committed by these wealthy nations against the developing countries. This is ridiculous that in a world of today, we have to deal with a corrupt platform like FATF in the name of so-called regulation of corruption and terrorism, when this regulatory platform has been completely biased, prejudiced for Zionism against those who defy Zionism. This is totally politically motivated. This is totally foreign agencies funded. It has no transparency. It has no accountability. I ask you, who is auditing FATF? Tell me one regulatory agency that is auditing FATF. Where is the funding of FATF coming from? Where is the policy making of FATF coming from? Who is involved in the policy making of FATF? How many nations are involved? How many developing nations are involved in the policy making of FATF? And how come the terrorist attacks orchestrated by India in Pakistan are totally ignored by FATF? And why isn't FATF putting India in the grey list based upon the APS attack in Pakistan in December 2014 that killed 150 school children? Why isn't the policymakers of FATF reading the book of Elias Davidson that proves that is a forensic investigative audit of the Mumbai attack, and that proves that Mumbai attack was an inside job? It was not orchestrated by Pakistan. It was not orchestrated by Hafiz Saeed. It was not orchestrated by an organization based in Pakistan. It was an inside job done by the Indian intelligence agency in collaboration with the Indian government in order to justify a diplomatic war against Pakistan, in order to economically isolate Pakistan, in order to justify increased armed weapons sales that Modi was so excited about. That BJP wanted to create a strong army to be able to eventually conquer Pakistan, and they needed an excuse for that. So they had to plant this attack in order to justify to their people that there is a threat in the name of Pakistan that they have to counter by buying more weapons, by diverting the funds that should have been used in the human development of India. They have to use these funds to buy weapons to do this war against Pakistan, because Pakistan is a threat, because Pakistan did the Mumbai attack. The reality is this, that they themselves did this attack to justify all these actions that wouldn't be justifiable. So FATF is playing in the hands of India. FATF is playing in the hands of Israel. FATF is playing in the hands of US, that is the ally, that's the diehard ally of both, that is supporting the fascism of Israel and that's supporting the fanaticism of India. FATF is supporting fascism. FATF is supporting fanaticism. FATF is actually supporting non-Islamic radical extremism by supporting organizations like RSS that are orchestrating acts of terrorism against the non-Hindus of India, by supporting the narrative of BJP that is a corrupt government that massacred Muslims, that lynches, that gives complete draconian immunity to lynching of non-Hindus just because they think about, or they even express about the wish to eat cow. This is how bad it is. And this is what FATF stands for today. $1.5 trillion of US corporations are stacked in offshore companies outside of US that should be taxed. That is money, dirty money laundered outside of US against the US Constitution. US is struggling right now. Medicaid is almost on the verge of bankruptcy. They don't have money to pay. Half of their equipment, even armed equipment, needs repairs and is docked on the shores. They don't have money to pay for all of this. But $1.5 trillion worth of US revenue by 30 corporations is stacked in offshore companies illicitly, and FATF will never graylist or even confront US because FATF is the puppy of US. FATF is the faithful dog of US. So it will never ever confront its founding father because the only purpose of FATF is to work as the toolbox of CIA in alliance with Mossad to tell all those people, all those governments who decide to defy Zionism politically, diplomatically. And so Pakistan is a victim, Iran is a victim, North Korea is a victim. Sovereign nations like Iran that have defied the Federal Reserve Bank, the global fiscal policies, they are a problem for FATF. So what's the result? Iran gets sanctioned, Iran gets blacklisted. Pakistan, a sovereign nation, is a big no-no because Pakistan defies Israel. Why? Because Pakistan will not let India occupy Kashmir because it's a human rights issue. We have 9 million Kashmiris living in the Indian occupied Kashmir under a brutal siege of the terrorists of RSS, where women are getting kidnapped, raped, where little kids are getting sodomized, where there is no communication accessible to the Kashmiris to tell the world what kind of heinous war crimes the Indian government is committing against them. But for FATF, India is not sponsoring terrorism. Why? Because Israel says so, because US says so. FATF is a corrupt organization. It has no credibility. I ask all those journalists who have a conscience, who want to save this world, who want to protect this world from extremism, from radical extremism, whether, I'm against ISIS, I'm against Al-Qaeda. They're extremist organizations, they're terrorist organizations. But what about the terrorism of non-Islamic, so-called, RSS, who are technically lynching non-Hindus alive? How come there is no hue or cry about that? How come there's no tangible action about that? How come FATF is not confronting India with the actions of RSS that is inciting hate, that is inciting terrorism against Indians themselves? When will FATF get neutrality in its actions? FATF is a tool of Zionist nations, including the European nations, including the US, and it has been built to control those countries that they think they cannot control. By economically sanctioning them, by blacklisting them, by twisting their arms, by twisting their backs, whatever needs to be done. IMF does that, and FATF is an offshoot of IMF. And this is about time in a world of information, in a world of common sense, when the global citizens of the world can think beyond what is fed to them through the mainstream biased journalism. I think it is about time that we all spoke up, united, about the unfairness of such an infrastructure that has been put in place to control the weak people, to control those you think are defying you, to try to enslave a population of 220 million people just because you're worried that these people do not agree with your ideology. You talk about freedom of expression, you talk about freedom of speech. 220 million people of Pakistan have been stripped of the right of their freedom of expression, speech, religion, ideology through tools like FATF. Pakistanis do not endorse Zionism. They think it is the worst form of enslavement. The occupation is illegal in Israel. The occupation of India, Israel's buddy, in Kashmir is illegal. It is a matter of human rights, it's a matter of conscience. And 220 million Pakistanis refuse to bow before Zionism. They refuse to bow before the atrocities of the Akhand Bharat Hindutva regime, the terrorists of RSS. So this is the punishment that they get. They get grey-listed by a regulatory agency based upon fake intel, based upon fake information, based upon lies and deception that are churned by illicit lobbying of India. India wants to continue its terrorism within India and in the form of a proxy war on the soil of Pakistan. And FATF is facilitating this terrorism. US 30 corporations found complicit in money laundering. Money laundering worth about 1.3 trillion dollars of US revenue, all stacked in offshore companies. But FATF is not going to confront US because it is convenient for it not to confront US, because it is an offshoot of CIA and it will not confront its own country because it is faithful to US. So how can you legitimize a non-neutral organization to become a global regulatory platform? It's like telling the CIA, hey, come and control my economic policy, come and control my fiscal policy. Hey, Mossad, come and control my economic policy. Tell me what I should do. Whom should I indict? Whom should I let go? You want Hafiz Saeed indicted because you think he's a terrorist? Sure. Yeah, sure. Let's do it. CIA wants Hafiz Saeed indicted. Mossad wants Hafiz Saeed indicted. RAW wants Hafiz Saeed indicted. Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it. FATF is the offshoot of these three foreign agencies working at the behest of these foreign agencies, and its only purpose is to control those governments that refuse to bow before Zionism and now before the Akhand Bharat Hindutva supremacy ideology. So technically, if you look at it, Pakistanis as a nation of 220 million people have been stripped of their right of freedom to speak, of freedom to express themselves, of freedom to keep their ideology. What is their ideology? The ideology is freedom of the people of Palestine, freedom of the people of Kashmir against oppression, against persecution, against the heinous war crimes of Israel and India. And we are being stripped of this freedom by tools like FATF because FATF thinks it can get away with it. And it thinks it can get away with it because the world is allowing it to get away with it. So I humbly request good journalists who are out there. I know you're out there, and I hope my voice can reach to all of you, whether you're in Europe, whether you are in US, whether you're in Canada, whether you're anywhere in the world, to dig the truth, to expose FATF, to expose these tools of the economic hitmen who are trying to enslave billions of people through their rogue policies, who are imposing their draconian code upon masses who want complete enslavement of this world. Think about it. It could be you next who could be the victim if you spoke up about something that you didn't like. It's Pakistan today, it's Iran today, it's North Korea today. It could be you tomorrow if you didn't do anything about it. That's all I have to say.